Hi there, I'm Alex and welcome back to the Ukes With podcast. This is the podcast where we meet people entwined and engulfed in the ukulele world, and we try and absorb as much knowledge and information out of them as we can while still having some fun along the way. And my guest today is my best friend in the whole world. It's Phil here from the Southern Ukulele Store. How you doing, Phil?
Man. I'm good. I'm really good. Yeah, thanks for having me, mate.
It's my pleasure. I've wanted you on the podcast from the off. You were kind of the second or third name I wrote down, and I thought, well, that'll be a fun conversation. And then when I've talked to people about it on Patreon, hi people on Patreon, you've been a top name where people have said, yes, I really want to see that interview and hear that conversation. So here we are.
Here we go.
So I guess we start from the beginning, because you're not really a ukulele guy.
Yeah.
But you've found yourself kind of falling down, and the more you try and dig out, the more
the further I try and get out of the ukulele pit, the further I get into it. And the more comfortable I get as well.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I think it's just a natural kind of sinking feeling with the ukulele, but once you start to understand it, you start defending it. Is that right?
Absolutely. I think that the craftsmanship that goes into the playing, the building, all of it is really cool, and I think that you can't deny it. It's got an amazing place in the music world, and even now I see parts of it just going into my guitar playing and everything else that I do musically.
Definitely. Once you start playing with those 4 high strings, everything starts to revolve around them. Do you find that with guitar?
Yeah, I've suddenly got a better appreciation of jazz triads.
Yeah. Jazz and the ukulele, they are just one and the same.
Entwined. Yeah.
So you started on guitar. That's been your main instrument. When did you start playing guitar, and what did you do?
So started playing guitar at 13. Had the compulsory Marshall MG10 amplifier for anyone who knows guitar amplifiers. Just got really into kind of punk rock music and found my own little kind of hub and identity in music and guitar playing and songwriting, and fell really kind of quickly in love with songwriting and doing that sort of thing. So yeah, did that for still do that now. Done that for years. I'm 31 now, so that's a long old time. And then I started working here 6 years ago.
Yeah. But with the guitar, just going back, I mean, you're in a few bands. You did a couple of different projects. You're somebody that likes to put together a lot of musical projects, and you like a lot of different styles. Just tell people who are unfamiliar with your previous career and musical exploits. Tell them a bit about Asp.
Okay, so my first band was a band called Asp, and for anyone who comes to the shop regularly, you'll probably know Gunsy, and he is was Asp's bass player when we were up and running, and we were like a desperate wannabe Motley Crue. We just loved the kind of 80s glam metal thing, and we just played that sort of style of music. It was really fun. There was far too many wild nights out, but it was really good to be in a really big loud rock band, and I love those days, and I still look back at them really fondly. I loved the shows that we did. We got to do a couple of little small UK tours and things, and it was really special. It was a really good point in my life. And
everyone I know wanted to be an Asp as well. Everybody kind of loved that you were so pure in what you were doing. When you're a kid, it's very easy to go, I like this kind of music, I'm going to play this. But actually, it's quite hard to do the very over-the-top, cheesy 80s music and the heavy rock and make it your own. There's so few bands that get to try and do that, and especially for as long as you guys did. So yeah, I'm glad it's a good time.
You're very kind.
Yeah, no, I am bigging it up. I mean, they played a few pubs and that was about it. But
yeah. But I remember our last gig. You actually played our last gig with us.
I did,
and that was really cool. That was really great.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to live a dream and be in a rock band for one night. And
then I got to play as part of Fern's last gig.
You did. Yeah, we've got an odd relationship in that we played very different styles, but as we've got older, we've met in the middle. Yeah. So we've worked together on a band called Hummingbird and the Crow. Some of the tunes that you guys hear on the on the Southern Ukulele Store videos are reinterpretations of songs that Phil and I played together on guitar. Talk a bit about Hummingbird and the Crow.
Hummingbird and the Crow was a much smaller part of my life, but just meant just as much to me as Asp did, really. I just kind of had this song, and I was desperate to figure out a harmony for it. I couldn't figure out a vocal harmony, and I said, Alex, can we stay on after work and just jam it out a little bit and see what happens? And you just had the best harmonies, and it was like, okay, we've got to do this now. And we just did, and it was, again, just a really cool experience and a really different crowd of people, a really different kind of set of gigs, and being that bit older, it felt a lot more kind of professional and functional. But that was really nice to have something kind of a streamlined, tangible kind of project to get into.
Yeah, man. Oh, I can't speak for you, but for me, all of the various projects I've done over the years, that probably about 18 months that we did that, it's the best thing I've ever done musically. I'll include some links in the description to this video if you're watching on YouTube, and you can see for yourself, and hopefully you like it, even though the ukuleles get very big in that band. They have 6 strings and they are guitars. There's
no beating around the bush on that one,
but we might one day play some of these tunes on the uke and make them work. It depends really what kind of appetite people have for it, because we've both got kids. And
yeah, I think it's more of a timing issue than anything else. Timing is in actual man hours than rhythmic timing.
So before you started at the Southern Ukulele Store, you did study music at university. What kind of element of music were you doing at uni? So
I did recording and engineering, so I was looking at how to record music. So that's been really cool. It kind of led me into working at a couple of local studios around Bournemouth, which is where the shop's based. And again, it was just always about adding another string to my bow and just filling that out so I could do as much as I could. I think one thing I learned from music, and one thing that I'm still learning, and I take through with me here at the shop, is just as much as you can, just learn, because it allows you to be independent.
Yeah.
And it allows you to kind of keep yourself kind of growing. And so the recording thing really allowed me to take charge of my own music. It allowed us to, when we were doing Hummingbird and the Crow, we were, recording the music video we shot here for Fly Like a Crow.
Yeah.
I recorded and mixed that.
We actually, I think we finished work at 5:30 and we recorded it whilst our friend Adam was setting up and making the shop ready for the video. Mm-hmm. And then you were mixed it down so that we could mime to it for the video. We did all of that in 3 hours, and it's something that none of us had ever done before.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of it, aren't you?
Yeah, like I still,
one for the list.
Yeah, just sometimes I still watch the video and I'm like, it's just really good. It's just really sweet to be able to kind of watch it and go, because that was always my thing with Asp. We really wanted to shoot a music video and we never kind of got around to it.
Yeah.
So like with Hummingbird and the Crow, you're such a go-getter. You'll go out and you'll just be like, if we're doing a music video, we're going to do a music video.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this is my opportunity. I've got Alex in the band, so let's do a video.
Yeah.
And we just, the vibe was completely right. And I'll never forget your surf green Converse.
Yeah, man.
They just always pop, man.
Yeah, they work really well in that video. Anyway, we're kissing each other's asses here, but the love we have is very real. We've worked together now for 6 or 7 years?
6 or 7 years.
Yeah. So what led you to the Southern Ukulele Store?
So I think really I just had some time to kill. I really needed to kind of earn like a little bit more money. I was doing bits of teaching, bits of youth working, and one of the guys I was youth working with told us about the job. There was a job here which Gunsy got, and then I was like, okay, well I need to do some bits, and I started doing some weekend work here, some part-time work here, covering when people were on holiday. And then when the full-time, I think I did that for a while, on and off, moved to Reading for a little bit, did uni,
yeah, it felt
back.
like you've worked here longer than 6 years because of that.
Yeah. Because I remember like all the old sofas and everything, and And then when the full-time position came up, I think I just annoyed Rob for so long that I kind of just bullied my way into the job. There was no one else. I just kind of stood there in the door and was like, I'm here, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And really lucky to just fall into it because been a 6-year career so far, so it's been great.
And when you started, did you think it would take you the places it's taken you?
No. I think that, and now that we've recently had a new member of staff join the team, who's really cool and really fantastic, and I just think that I never would have thought that I'd have done the things that I have through the shop. There's so many experiences, and it's not just like working at a retail place. You know, you don't just kind of come here because you want to sell something to someone and take as much money out of their pocket as possible.
Yeah.
It's a real kind of personal journey. You end up kind of being friends and acquaintances with all the customers that come in, and it's a small business. So, you know, over the course of that 6 years of working here, me and you went from kind of knowing each other in passing from bands and things like that to being really, you know, as you said, best friends.
Yeah, man. I mean, I find as a grown-up, I lean on you for emotional support a lot because we've got kids the same age, and you know, we've been married the same amount of time, and we both have to look at ukuleles all day, which is traumatic in itself. But we do very different things day to day at the shop.
Yeah.
And I think we don't step on each other's toes, but we spend all day together. Would you agree? That's kind of what I think makes our friendship.
It's going to sound very cliche, but just like the yin to my yang. If I need something professionally or not professionally, I can just be like, yeah, how's it going?
Yeah.
And it just works out. I think that, yeah, as you said, our job descriptions are very different in store. But I think the fact that my life has just kind of happened a year after yours.
Yeah.
You had a kid, next year I had a kid. Like, it's just all kind of worked out that it's like we've kind of grown up together, especially in the last kind of 6 or 7 years. It's been really cool to have someone who's doing the same things in life and professionally all at the same time as you.
Yeah.
Moving house.
We just mirror each other every step of the way. Yeah. And when we don't, it feels weird.
Yeah.
When we don't. So you've come into this shop. You've not played ukulele. You've not come from that background. You've taken on the instrument, and then Rob, the owner of the Southern Ukulele Store, says to you, "I want you to go up and do a course with Pete Howlett."
Yeah. Crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, what did you get out of that experience? What's some of your memories?
Yeah, so I think, like, firstly, like, just kind of getting my feet under the table here. We were really lucky. Our friend Adam, who we mentioned earlier, who filmed the video, used to work here, and he was kind of doing a lot of what I do now, which is just kind of like running the repairs department and stuff. So I kind of shadowed him a lot and got my feet under the table there and learned all of those things. And it just so happened that it worked out that he was kind of heading off and going travelling when Pete offered the course. And I was really fortunate to go up and build a uke with Pete. And that's a dream come true. Who doesn't want to build their own instrument? You know? And to have that experience, and I think I was lucky enough to be kind of thinking about what I might be like talking about and making some notes. And I was thinking to myself that actually what makes Pete's uke so special is that he's done it for so long that he has his own little ways of doing things. You pick up, when you've done something for that long, you just pick up your own little kind of tricks of the trade.
Oh yeah.
And to see how other ukes have been built since doing it and have an understanding of it, you kind of go, well, that's why Pete's ukes sound the way they do, because he builds them to have the backs and the sides be this thick. Yeah. And it's really cool.
And he doesn't worry about the instrument aging and changing with age.
No.
Because he builds it just on the verge of destruction.
Yeah,
you know
almost.
I mean?
Yeah.
The top's as thin as it can be. He knows, because at some point you know he's made a top that wasn't thick enough. And you know he doesn't worry about Hawaiian belly, because Kamakas have been doing that for 100 years.
That's it, man.
And I think that you've come back from Pete, and the amount of knowledge you've passed on. I'm glad you got a lot out of it, but just working around you over the years, the amount of times you've been like, do you know what, I remember Tommy or Pete. I mean, talk about Tommy, because Tommy's amazing in himself.
Tommy was great. Like, Tommy encouraged me to, I was really nervous about doing something to the uke. I was like, oh, shall I chamfer the edges of my uke? And he showed me this like little trick with like the sandpaper, and it's something I use all the time, and it's so simple, and it's just kind of really trusting it like it's your own hands.
Yeah.
And just getting in there and kind of doing it to help chamfer the edges. But the big one for me was when Pete carved the neck. Like, I remember him distinctly bringing out this like L-shaped block of wood, and I was like, what's going on here? What are we going to do?
You looked at it and you didn't identify what it would become.
Yeah, completely, because it was such a weird thing. It was kind of like this with like, I'm holding up a piece of wood to the camera for anyone watching on YouTube. But yeah, it's like a block of wood with like a little kind of top piece to it. It's like an L that's fallen over. And he just took this file and just started going at it. And by the time he had explained what we were doing, he had actually shaped and carved a neck. And I'm like, this is going to take me all afternoon. And it did.
Yeah.
And it's like hilarious just to see what that experience does to you and what the ability to judge something does. So when Tommy taught me something really simple, which is the nut cut trick that we still use to this day, which is if you cut the nut a little bit, kind of just a smidge, kind of point it towards the machine heads, you can actually lengthen the scale a little bit and just fix some intonation issues if you really need to with that little tweak. You know, he did it, and he did it as though he's been doing it for years and had been, and nailed it. And I did it, and I was like, I clearly just put a right angle into it, and it's taken me so much time now, and now I'm great. I can stand there and I can do it. But experience is so key. Like when you're setting an instrument up, you've got to set one up every day, and I'm just really fortunate
that you're
to work in a position where I get to do it every day,
yeah.
And really kind of hone my skills. So I'm incredibly lucky.
Even now, all these years later, these little tips and tricks that you picked up that day have been vital.
Yeah, like little bits of kind of wood shavings and glue. You can make a little bit of putty.
That's
to like fill little bits if you need to on stuff, and yeah, crazy little bits like that.
That's trick number one as well.
Yeah.
Like that is something that you need to have in your arsenal. You need to be able to work around when it's not going your way. Yeah. To pull it back where it needs to be.
Being able to instantly pull out like a plan B when you're halfway through setting up a ukulele and you go, oh, this isn't what I wanted. How do I remedy this? So,
talk about the NAMM show. The NAMM show being this massive trade show that happens in California and in the summer as well, in Nashville, but really it's the central hub where the music trade get together and discuss new products, learn about new products, and sparks happen and big changes get to happen. I feel like the NAMM show is a massive part of my life, but you've been with me twice. What are your experiences? What sticks out to you as big memories?
Like big memories, like just painting a picture a little bit, like being young, I never went on holiday. Like we would go like around England a little bit, but we would never go on holiday. And so I'd done a couple of trips with my wife to Cyprus, where she's from, and Turkey and stuff, but I'd never gone to America. And so being from Bournemouth, just as you know, just quite a small little town in the UK, and you land in LAX, you're like, whoa, this is big. And you told me how big it is, and then you get to the NAMM show and you're like, I could stick my hometown in this building. This is nuts.
It's the size of a football stadium in terms of just the floor space for the show. So that's not including like extra floors and the room where most of the stuff happens for us.
It's crazy.
It's just so vast.
So big.
We did a walkthrough for one of the Southern Ukulele Store videos. Yeah, we did. I mean, we fast forwarded it at times 120, and it took 7 minutes to walk from one end to the next at quite a fast British pace. You know, like that.
Stomping kind of. Here we go.
We've seen all this already. We need to get to the other end of the building.
This is our last day. Come on, let's do this.
What was it like meeting Kanile'a in person?
So so you were saying earlier how like, you know, it's taken me like a while to kind of warm up to the ukulele, right? It's impossible not to absolutely fall in love with the ukulele when you meet Kanile'a. Do you know what I mean? Like they are some of the nicest people I've ever met, and I distinctly remember the last time we were there. We just spent a whole lot of time with them at the stall, and they are just the most lovely people, very interesting people. Their ukes are amazing. And it was just a wonderful experience to spend time with, you know, Kaimana and Joe and everybody. It was really, really cool. I love the work that they do. Kanile'a are my favourite uke brand. We've spoken about it before. The stuff they do with the redwood cedar and the D series stuff. We are opposite the Kanile'a wall right now in the shop, so I get to look up and just see all these models and bring back memories.
It's right near your bench as well, so like we are sat where you work most of the day, and I guess you just go, when you need inspiration, you just look over there.
Yeah. I kind of look over there and go, because the thing that I love most about, I think, a uke is actually facilitating someone else's ability to play one and setting it up to be the best thing it can be.
God, well, that's beautiful. I love that. That is so you as well. That is what you're like. You love making people happy. Cool, man.
And I think that every so often I kind of, for my own sake, look over and go, come on, someone, buy a Kanile'a so I can get my hands on it. Not that it needs a lot of work, but I just want a quality check one, please. So yeah, that was really cool. The other one was the first year when we went, and we started talking about this before we put the cameras on, but that was the last podcast I did. It was like we were just so jet lagged, and I clearly remember somebody else falling asleep. But we spoke to Joe from Blackbird, and I'm like, how is it I'm here talking to this guy about how he engineers the Blackbird ukuleles?
Yeah.
And it was just such a... We weren't even at the podcast at that point. We were just sat on the wall outside the NAMM show.
He's a tonic. Joe from Blackbird. We were sat on the wall, and he was late, wasn't he? And my phone wouldn't make an international call, and we were just so disappointed. He's going to think we've stood him up, and then he just turns up, and he's just got like a foul mouth, like us when we're not being professional, and he's cracking the jokes, but he's also clearly the most intelligent person in the room. Yeah.
When he's talking about like forestation, you're like, I can't keep up here, man. Like,
I tried.
You tried. You did a really good job. I was like, listen, at this point, I'm just here to hold a camera. I'm going to be quiet.
But you talked to him about you'd had to make the same adjustment on maybe 5 or 6 different Blackbird ukuleles, and I believe it was to do with compensation on the saddle, and you talked to him about that, and he started making written notes. Was that what it was?
Yeah, it was. I think it was that, and it was just so bizarre to just think that how am I giving advice to this guy? But yeah, we spoke about compensation on the saddle and the adjustments I have to occasionally make to Blackbird ukuleles, but they come out of the box. And they're pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it wasn't like there was a problem with it. I'm not backtracking now. Like she said to him, I've noticed that on the last few that have come through, I've had to compensate the C slightly or something like that.
It was like they just had like a straight gradient, and it just needed like a little bit of a lean or something like that.
Some gentle persuasion.
Yeah. Right. Like little touches. And it was just great to just be able to talk to him about it.
But then immediately after that, I remember you met Joel from the ukulele site who does Ecologic Strings.
Yeah.
And you two were just like... He has a lot of energy.
Yeah.
When you talk to him about what he likes, you do too, and nobody in this room had any sleep, but you two were talking about ukulele setups, and it was like you'd known each other your whole lives. And I would say actually your conversation with Joel and how well you got on has led to Southern Ukulele Store stocking Ecologic Strings, because we got so much out of him in that short, brief face-to-face interaction that we kind of understood each other. So
I think that being a huge metalhead outside of the shop, when someone wants to talk to me about crazy gauges for strings on any instrument, I'm like, let's do this. Yeah. Let's get into it. Let's go. So yeah, discussing the pros and cons of. I think we just started doing the sus GCA and DGB sets.
Yeah.
For the baritone, and we were talking about the string gauges and what you made up for those, and just how much I loved them really. and just they bring such a nice amount of tension to a baritone and really make them pop and sing. And he was giving me feedback on what he was doing as well, and it was again, just all these interactions that you don't think you would have, and there's just a bigger community out there for the whole thing.
It's still a small community, but it's bigger than you ever imagined.
Yeah. The versatility of it, the amount of different players you see, the amount of different styles you see people doing it in, is just amazing. But my favourite NAMM story, we were at the Kanile'a stand, and I said to you, I've got to go, 1 sec, I'll be back, because I saw a man in a black leather jacket and black jeans, and he had black hair like down to his waist, and I was like, this looks like someone I got to meet. And I ran around the corner, and Slash's new band, Slash, Guns N' Roses, Slash.
Everyone knows Slash.
Slash
transcends
everything.
explanation in a ukulele podcast.
Yeah. His new bass player is a guy called Todd Kearns, who I geeked out and recognised. And I was like, oh, I got Todd Kearns from Slash's band. And he was like, yeah, we were chatting. And he plays ukulele. And we got into it, and we were chatting about ukuleles and what ukes he plays. And of course, I did I had to say the whole, like, well, if you ever want a uke set up, I'm your guy.
I'm the man.
I'm the one, like, Southern Ukulele Store. And so he follows us on Instagram.
Yeah. He likes things as well.
Yeah, and he's just really great. And it's weird that I still, to this day, have very small, fleeting interactions with people like that through social media, from just going to the NAMM show and working here and just, working hard.
Just
coming up with you.
Well, that's it. Before we move away from the NAMM show, we'll just touch on that podcast, because someone watching or listening to this might go, well, I'm going to check out that podcast if they chat to the guys from Ukulele site. Unfortunately, the podcast never aired because, well, Andrew's not going to listen to this podcast. I believe the podcast never aired because Corey and Calais both fell asleep while we were talking. And I don't think it was that we were boring, although maybe, you'd be the judge of that.
Yeah, if you're asleep right now, we're boring.
This is the kind of energy we brought to that conversation, but it was just us talking to Andrew and Joe from Blackbird while Corey and Calais nodded off in this hotel room. It was the worst orgy I've ever been to.
We were both like really excited to be at a podcast and really envious that someone else was going to sleep because we were so jet lagged.
We'd been awake for 25 hours when the podcast started, and then it was 2 hours of talking, and then they never even used it. I just remember feeling, when I got back about 2 months later, I was like, sent Andrew a message like, Andrew, I don't suppose this podcast's ever going to go live. He's like, oh no man, the audio wasn't right. And I'm like,
I could have been asleep.
The audio was fine.
I could have been asleep. We did go to, where did we go afterwards? We went and got a quick burger somewhere.
Oh, In-N-Out Burger.
In-N-Out Burger, and then back to the hotel room.
Yeah, and it was late. That was a long day.
And I think we hit traffic, and we were like, what have we done to deserve this?
Yeah, basically in LA, if you get in a car, you're hitting traffic.
Yeah, you'll hit traffic.
Regardless of the time. It's like the cruelest place in the world for driving. So moving away from the NAMM show, because we could talk about that, and we've talked about that for years, and I miss the NAMM show. I wish it was something that we were able to go to in 2022, but it looks like it's going to be 2023 now.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And let's talk about ukes for a second, because I'm sure that people call us up here and they go, hi there, I'm looking for a ukulele, I've got this budget. If I told you a couple of things that I was looking for, I'd be really interested to hear what you think the standout instruments were at that price. I think that's something that a lot of people listening to this kind of thing really value hearing from someone like yourself. So, I'm just starting ukulele. I'm going to spend up to £150, concert or a tenor. What stands out to you as being the best value in 2021?
The KTI 100Ms are great. you know, most people who are starting out with a ukulele want a strap button fitted.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they're still getting to grips with holding it, and they just want something to kind of make it feel a bit more secure. They want to be able to hear it really well.
Yep.
They want some sort of solid woods. They want really good construction.
A bag.
And a bag.
Yeah.
And it comes with all of that for under, like, you'd still have enough money to go get lunch.
That's true. You
Like,
could come down to Bournemouth for the day, buy a kite, and then go to one of the pubs up the road, get ripped off on a meal, and still have a few pounds left.
But you'd only feel like you've been ripped off on the meal.
Yeah, not on the uke. Okay, so let's say now I'm somebody coming in. I've had my first uke for a while. I've got. It's so tough because do you find when people are asking these about, say, I've got £500 to spend, and it's very easy to go, right, well, I know that the flight fireball is £500, but you don't want to take the piss out of people and say, I think if you spend a bit more, you can have an OPO. So, you know, let's say we're looking at that mid-price point where people are buying something serious, you know, they're going to love it. We call it affectionately in the shop Pono or higher, because Pono did that price point first.
It's like a game show.
It is, yeah. So Pono or higher then, Phil, what would you go for?
Pono or higher, if I'm spending my own hard-earned wonga, I'm going to go Miller.
Yeah, good shout.
I just think Miller captures so many of the tone options I would want. You know, they've got stuff with rosa back and sides. The cypress tops on them are really interesting, and they're made really well. I really rate them, and I find that dynamically they've got a little bit more kind of to them than some of the other brands. I really like Pono as a guitar player. I feel like if you want something that feels like really solid in your hand, the Ponos feel nice and kind of like sturdy. Not that anything else doesn't, but you know.
Sorry to interject. I always feel like Pono, if you're a guitar player out there watching this and you're looking and going, well, I wonder what a Pono's like. It's like Faith guitars, or it's like the high-end Ibanez guitars, or Epiph. Like Pono just has this feel about it, like it was made by a guitar company, but they actually took really good notes about what people want from a ukulele. So it's thicker than other ukuleles at that price, but it's like you just don't get a bad Pono.
No.
Over the years, I can't. Maybe one where it arrived with a problem, and then you know that they're as good as gold. About.
I only have one horror story about a Pono.
Go on.
It's that someone came in with a Pono once, and they'd put a strap button in it, and they were having a pickup fitted, and a little bit of the screw had sheared off in the block, and as I put the drill in, the drill hit the screw.
Oh dear.
And I didn't see it until the uke just popped open, and then inside the block I saw the bit of screw that had snapped off.
Yeah.
And just that's my only time I think a Pono's kind of let me down, and that's kind of understandable. That I don't even blame Pono for that. I blame a cheap screw.
The screw, the end of a metal screw.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Miller.
You
know, under £1,000. Are there any other brands that you really would like to give a shout out to?
I mean, the thing is that they're all here for a reason, because, you know, if you're a bit more of like a classical guitar player or something along those lines, you might really like Romero because of their heritage and what they do. The OPO tenor, man, unwound low G, bass response forever, is just it's like a big old blanket on a winter's day. It is so warm. It is lush.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, there are lots of really good brands. I would go with a Miller, or the OPO. But come down and get them in your hands. That's the best bit, because we're not going to force one on you. We're going to help you find the one that's there for you.
But you'll always get an honest opinion. I think really with any ukulele retailer, I know we talk a lot from our own perspective at SAS, but you know, you could ask any shop that specialises in ukuleles and they will mention the same things we've mentioned, because they just stand out. They stand out amongst the pack. I think we know you love Kanile'a, but are there any kind of high-end builders or builds?
Yeah, absolutely. I really love Unui Moonbirds, and I love the Louts Lions even more. Number one, they're orange. Duh. They're just so colourful. I think that when you work with ukuleles every day and you just see wood, colour, you get something that's like really bright orange, and you're like, what? This is amazing. Yeah. So that's really impressive, and it sounds phenomenal as well. It's that body shape. They've got a slightly different contour to the bottom bout. The rosewood and spruce thing I love on the UT200 more than I do on any other instrument in the store.
Yeah, at any price.
Yeah, it's got a liveliness and a vibrancy that if I want to get some like kind of dirty blues lead playing out of an acoustic ukulele, that's the one, man. That's just going to be mega. And then the Lout is the cover back and sides. It's just like a kind of softer version.
Yeah. And
it's like a little bit more kind of complex. And so you kind of feel like you can take more chances on it.
Yeah, the sound samples over the last 2 years, since we've had better equipment, every time we featured the Lion, the Lout, the Lion. It's a Lion if you're not unsure what we're talking about, the Unui Lion ukulele. That one, it just always comes out on top to people's ears. It must record really well as well. In the flesh, it's the only ukulele where when a customer is trying it in the shop, whatever we're doing around the shop, we just kind of go, oh, okay, it's that. Do you know what I mean?
Especially with the new desk having the back to it, we always kind of peer over and go, oh, what's going on over here? Like meerkats.
Okay, cool. Before we wrap up, I just want to talk about your teaching, because you teach ukulele, and you don't have a lot of free time, but you're doing virtual lessons with people by appointment, and I mean, you've not come on this podcast to really promote yourself, because I know that you have a limited space, but do you want to tell everyone a bit about that?
Yeah, I think with the teaching thing, as I said earlier, I love songwriting, so I really kind of try and dig into the creative learning process. So we're always thinking about what kind of tools you need in your bag to be able to create more and just achieve more, really. And I really get a kick out of seeing people do well and achieve things, and just being there for the journey and the ride of it. So I think that's why I teach, really, because I'm so passionate about the creative process and I like seeing other people do it. And if you want lessons, it's ukeswithphil@gmail.com. Ping over an email and I'll do my best to get back to you in amongst being a dad to soon to be 2 children.
There's a funny story behind that email. Ukes with Alex wasn't meant to be Ukes with Alex, but Phil touched on it earlier on. So when we were doing Hummingbird and the Crow, like, I'm somebody who, I'm creative, but I'm desperate. When I get my teeth into something, I just have to do everything I can with it, and I've got no patience, so I make it happen. And we talked about doing courses and educational stuff, and that's something that might still happen together down the road, but you couldn't commit the time, and it was hard for us both to do it. So
especially with like lockdown and everything. It was a juggling free-for-all, wasn't it?
We talked about it in the November, and then by the March we were stuck in our houses for most of the time,
metaphorically snowed in.
Yeah, so I set up Ukes with Alex as a means to kind of create that, and I set up an email address for Phil, because the email address he was using to tell people he was a teacher was just really
.this, .that,
just crap. Like, it's just like the worst bit of self-marketing in the world. And I'm somebody who really, I absolutely get off on good marketing. Like, I prefer, I buy into the marketing more than the product itself.
When you kind of, I think if someone met us in the store, you would see why you do so much front-facing stuff, because you're really good at marketing and talking to people, and you can see why I like to get behind a bench, because I'm a little bit more like, you got a problem, let me fix it, and keep my face kind of out of the way.
You do yourself a disservice, because you're a massive you're just a massive star in the eyes of so many of our customers. Like, you're the go-to person for so many people, and for me, you know, I love working with you, and I won't ever tell you enough just how much I think you bring to just the Southern Ukulele Store, and yeah, just in general, mate, got a lot of love for you.
Likewise, man. Thank you, dude.
No, and you know, if people are looking for a teacher for one-to-one lessons, you know, Phil is fantastic. Likewise, before we sign off, you know, selfishly, I teach as well via courses, because I think that that's the way I can give you the best value for money. So if you're into fingerstyle ukulele right now, I've just launched a course on low G fingerstyle uke that you can pick up from ukeswith.com. It's the same price as an hour lesson from a professional teacher, but you get lots more for your money than that. And ideally, I think what you should do probably is take my course and then contact Phil for.
Also, if you're taking your course, you should try it, because, you know, I looked at like the free sample and stuff, and it works best when you try it with the Ukes with Alex strings. Which are currently on my ukulele, and yeah, I think they work really well for what I do.
I gave Phil a set of the Ukes of Alex low G strings. Also, there's a link for that in the description. But but you really you came in like really buzzing about them, and it made me so happy, because everyone who I gave sample sets to when I was in the process of making them really got on with them.
So you want to be like a uke blues behemoth, get a mahogany kind of Pete Howlett uke that I've made and whack on a set of Ukes with Alex strings, and you'll be set.
Nice.
Set for life.
Cool. And you can catch me and Phil at the Southern Ukulele Store Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. At the time of recording, I mean, who knows if there'll be another lockdown at the time of recording. But, you know,
I thought you meant actual
I will just
time-wise.
ask her. Do you know what? I've had enough. Yeah. But no, that's not likely to happen anytime soon.
No.
We love what we do. I hope that comes across in the video. Thank you very much for joining me.
Cheers, pal.
We'll do this again soon.
Shake your hand.